Speaking of actual discipline in the National Football League and commissioner discipline, Mark Maske of the Washington Post joins me now live on the phone here on the Rich Eisen Show. Mark, you had an interesting story today that the league is prepared to remove the commissioner from the first layer of player discipline in future cases. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Rich, we've heard for a while, we've heard Roger Goodell say that he's willing to have his authority reduced in this player disciplinary process, but we really haven't heard how exactly the NFL would go about doing that. Now we have some idea in this letter that Jeff Pash, the league's chief counsel, sent Sunday to the union. Basically, as you just outlined, Roger Goodell would give up the authority to make the initial ruling. So when a player who has had some off-field misconduct is suspended, is fined, whatever, that ruling would be made by someone else. So we don't know exactly who that is right now. It could be a panel of outside people. It could be someone that the league and the union agreed to. But then in the league's sort of arrangement, the proposal, or whatever they're putting forth here, whatever you'll call it, then if the player chose to appeal that appeal would come back and would be heard and resolved by Roger Goodell or someone appointed by him. So we would see a reduction of a power, but not a removal of Roger Goodell from the process. And this is sort of just the back and forth between the league and union right now. We'll see how it ultimately comes out, and we'll see what the union's response is to this. It doesn't seem that this is something that they would want, but at least it seems to be a step by the league in the direction of something the union might want.
But Mark Maske, the Washington Post, joining me here. I mean, the idea that the commissioner would remove himself completely from this process is pure fantasy. I mean, what commissioner would do such a thing?
It's not going to happen, but that doesn't mean that the union can't ask for it. And also, I think maybe put yourself in the union shoes, and I don't want to speak for them, and no one has told me this today from the union, but I think the union's sort of preferred setup would be to reverse those two. That Roger Goodell makes the initial decision, and then the appeal goes to a neutral and outside arbitrator. That's what the union has stressed it really wants. We saw it happen with Barbara Jones, the former federal judge, who heard and resolved the Ray Rice appeal. We haven't seen it happen to the union's satisfaction, the Adrian Peterson appeal. That's been assigned to Harold Henderson, who used to be a labor executive in the league office, and the union has sort of expressed its dissatisfaction with the independence of the arbitrator in that case. So as I said, it's not what the union would want. I think the union would want a different arrangement, but we're not done with the process yet. And what we see now is the league at least taking a step towards something that might be acceptable to the union and the players. But you're right. In the bottom line, anyone who believes that the commissioner will not be a part of this process at all, that simply won't happen.
Mark Maske of the Washington Post. But why would the commissioner of any sport, for that matter, go ahead and put him or herself in a position where the decision is made and then somebody from the outside comes in and corrects the decision or changes the decision over and over and over again, as opposed to a decision is made by an independent observer, somebody that everybody agrees to is an independent observer, sort of in the case of Ray Rice. That person makes the decision first, and if that decision isn't made, the league can't appeal to itself, then it's over. So, or am I fallacious in my thinking here, Mark?
No, I think you're absolutely right. No commissioner in any sport is ever going to willingly agree to an arrangement where a decision that he makes on a disciplinary matter, a discipline of a player, can be overruled by someone on the outside. Now, you have to ask yourself, is the situation the NFL is in, and in particular the situation the NFL was in September, where the public outcry was so large, was the NFL in a situation to really do what it wanted to do, what it would have preferred? Is it in that situation even now to do what it wants, to do what it prefers, and satisfy the public at large that this is the right process, this is a process that is going to work going forward? So that's sort of the question. No league, no commissioner is ever going to do that willingly. Is the NFL in a position where it is going to be forced by public sentiment to have to take that kind of step? I would say no. I don't think we're at that point. I do think that, as we've talked about here, that the league has made a step towards taking away some of Goodell's power. We will see in some way, shape, or form, Goodell's power reduced, we will not see him ultimately removed from the process altogether.
Well, in all honesty, Mark, and speaking to fans, as I'm fortunate to do, I don't think they really care about the process. They just want to get somebody who hits their wife or hits their kid the proper punishment. And however this process happens, let's get that right, and then we can play football and focus on what we love the most. And the question is, how do we get to that part, Mark? Where do we stand on all that? When can we get some resolution on all of this?
It's a great point. You're right. It's a great point. The fans, the public at large, they're concerned about the bottom line result, but the people involved in the process, the league and the union who are working this out, they are the ones who have to be concerned with all the interim steps, with how does it work to get to a bottom line result that will satisfy the fans and satisfy the public, but also satisfy the people inside the system, the players and the union, which has to guard their interests, that their rights during the process are going to be protected, that sort of the need for the fans to have a bottom line result that they're happy with won't result in player rights being trampled during the process. So they're working through it. Clearly, the league and the union are having dialogue. It is a combative dialogue at times. We've seen them very much at odds in the resolution of the Rice and Peterson cases. We still see them at odds as they're working their way through this. Roger Goodell has promised the new conduct policy by the Super Bowl. He's had a lot of meetings. He's talked to a lot of people inside the sport and outside. Clearly now you see from this letter that Jeff passed on Sunday, they're sort of getting down to going back and forth with the union over what the specifics of this going to be, what the specifics of this are going to be. So I would say they're sort of in the final stages of deliberation, and sometime in the coming weeks, you would think within a month or so, you're going to see the NFL come out and say, this is what the new conduct policy is going to be.
Last question for you, Mark Maske, Washington Post. When's Robert Mueller III? When are we hearing from him?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't there? I don't think anyone knows. I think most people inside the NFL don't even know. Obviously, Robert Mueller was appointed by the NFL to investigate the league's handling of the Rice case, but in terms of sort of guiding the investigation and having hands-on involvement, yes, John Mara and Art Rooney are involved in that process, but in terms of telling Robert Mueller when the outcome is going to be, they're not going to tell him that. It's going to be, when he decides it. And I don't think we know or anybody in the league right now really knows the answer to that.
Mark, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. I hope you won't mind if we try again down the road when conditions warrant.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rich.
You bet. That's Mark Maske of the Washington Post.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.